I call Colonel Jit Singh Bakshi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute on the third reading of this bill. And I acknowledge the last speaker, some of the points which he has raised. I will try to address those. Mr. Speaker, New Zealand is one of the least corrupt countries in this world, as it has been said time and again. And it's not just we saying it, but it has been said by a lot of international agencies. Just now, Honorable Phil Goff mentioned about Transparency International. Just now, they have released a press release from which I would like to quote that it says, "Good news about New Zealand's Defence Force. A 76-question Government Defence Anti-Corruption Index shows NZDF leading our region. This 2015 index, just released by UK Special Defence Force project by UK Defence Force, gives New Zealand Defence Force high marks for strong integrity system across every risk area assessed by the index, such as personnel, procurement, operations, political, and finance." End of the quote. Which proves that New Zealand is not just least corrupt, but in all area, it is working very well for us. This national-led government has worked on many fronts to ensure that we maintain and also continue to encourage the signatory to international, some of the treaties we have signed, to honor those. Mr. Speaker, to maintain our country's reputation and keeping it responsible member of international community, we are working in that direction. Organized crime is a global issue, and we need to make sure New Zealand is not vulnerable to such attacks that easily spread in legal framework, financial system, and technology through the organized crime network. Honorable Phil Goff also mentioned about some of the issues of like methamphetamine, money laundering, and plus human trafficking. He said these are the domestic issues, but I don't think these are just domestic issues. They have got connection internationally. And that's why we have been working hard to ensure that we are ready to tackle these issues. The government has worked on many fronts in previous 7 years. Honorable Phil Goff mentioned that we signed a treaty 11 years ago, and what this government has done in past 7 years. So I would like to ask him that he was a minister in those 4 years, what he did during those 4 years, nothing. At least we are working in direction to honor those treaties. Mr. Speaker, we also passed a law in 2009, which is under the Criminal Proceeds Recovery Act 2009, which allows law enforcement agencies to recover the proceeds of crime. This money then is used for other law enforcement initiatives, which is working very well. Police has recovered millions of dollars from the criminal proceeds and being used in other areas. Another law which was passed, Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Financing of Terrorism Act in 2009, which helps law enforcement agencies to detect and deter serious crime, such as drug dealing, tax evasion, and fraud. This act makes it easier to recover money gained illegally and help to close those loopholes that criminals use for money laundering. Mr. Speaker, before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge the officials for their contribution and their support. And I would also like to acknowledge the contribution of Law and Order Select Committee members during this process. Some of the key issues which have been dealt in this bill, I would like to highlight those, such as the banks are now required to report all wire transfers which are above $1,000 or any physical cash being deposited into the banks to the intelligence unit, financial intelligence unit within the police department. Mr. Speaker, this ensures that the transactions are very transparent and can be tracked right to the bottom. Redrafting of the money laundering offense to specify that intent to conceal is also not required anymore. We have to declare all those transactions which are to be reported to the Financial Intelligence Unit. Some of these issues will be have been addressed, which were raised by Honorable Phil Goff, and I think he will be happy to learn that these issues have been resolved. With these words, I commend this bill to the House.
I call Kelvin Davis.